Ashley's friends from the church community started to worry when they couldn't get in touch with her. She was usually always responsive, so her sudden silence seemed unusual. Their concern grew even more when they arrived at her home on Tennyson Road. No matter how many times they knocked on the door or rang the doorbell, there was no answer. Anxious and unsure of what to do next, they decided to call the police. By 4 p.m., law enforcement officers arrived at the scene. Assessing the situation and recognizing a potential threat, the police made the urgent decision to force entry into the house. Inside, they discovered a tragic scene. A woman was found unresponsive, showing clear signs of harm. There was nothing the officers could do except officially pronounce her dead. Dear viewers, please don't forget to like, leave a comment under the video, and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. This is very important to us. Today, we will explore a real and deeply tragic story that shook an entire community. Born on July 25, 2002, in the picturesque town of Vernon, British Columbia, Ashley Wadsworth was the youngest of 2 daughters in the loving family of Kenneth Wadsworth and Christy Jandron. From an early age, Ashley exuded warmth, kindness, and a curiosity about the world around her. She had an adventurous spirit and a deep appreciation for life, embracing every opportunity to explore and learn. With a natural ability to connect with others, she formed strong bonds with her family and friends, who cherished her deeply. Ashley excelled academically and socially throughout her school years. She had a radiant personality that drew people toward her, making her well-liked by peers and adults alike. After graduating from high school, she had ambitious plans to further her education. But beyond academics, Ashley had a vibrant range of interests. She found solace in art, losing herself in painting and sketching, and she relished the excitement of outdoor activities. Skiing down snowy slopes, swimming in crystal-clear lakes, playing tennis on bright summer afternoons. She was always in search of new adventures. Vernon, a charming town nestled about 270 miles northeast of Vancouver, had a population of approximately 43,000 residents. Despite its scenic beauty and the tight-knit community it offered, Ashley longed for more. She dreamed of breaking free from the confines of her small hometown, eager to experience different cities and immerse herself in foreign cultures. Above all, she had an unwavering desire to visit the United Kingdom. This was not a fleeting whim or a passing fancy. It was a dream she had nurtured for years. When Ashley was around 12 years old, she did not yet have a smartphone like many of her peers. Unlike other kids who scrolled through social media on their personal devices, Ashley had to rely on the family's laptop to keep up with the online world. Through this, she frequently browsed social media, observing her classmates' digital interactions and occasionally connecting with new people herself. She quickly learned that it was not unusual to add dozens of friends or strike up conversations with strangers from across the globe. In 2015, one of Ashley's friends from Vernon introduced her to an English boy named Jack Seal via an online platform. At the time, Ashley was only 12 years old, while Jack was 16. Unlike many of her peers, Ashley had always been captivated by the idea of distant places, new cultures, and unfamiliar landscapes. The fact that Jack lived thousands of miles away in a country she had always dreamed of visiting only fueled her curiosity further. To her, he was more than just another online friend. He was a glimpse into a different world, a gateway to the places she longed to explore. Jack lived with his mother in Chelmsford, a city with a population of about 180,000, located roughly an hour's drive from London. Unlike Ashley, who was outgoing and full of life, Jack was more reserved. His primary interest seemed to revolve around social media, where he spent most of his time interacting with people online. Their personalities were different, but the contrast intrigued Ashley. Their 3.5-year age gap initially seemed insignificant, as their bond was purely virtual. They started as pen pals, exchanging messages daily. Over time, their connection deepened, and before long, Ashley began mentioning Jack in conversations with her family, her parents, and her older sister, Haley. Ashley's parents, Christy and Kenneth, had been divorced for some time, but they maintained a stable relationship with their children. While Ashley's father remained largely indifferent to her online friendship, her mother was more skeptical. Christy was wary of the developing relationship, fearing that Ashley was being misled. The anonymity of the internet made it easy for people to hide their true identities, and she worried that the boy her daughter spoke to might not be who he claimed to be. However, Ashley and Jack soon began FaceTiming, often in the presence of her family. Seeing his face on the screen and hearing his voice reassured Christy to some extent. She even exchanged a few words with Jack on occasion, charmed by his British accent. She hoped that Ashley's fascination with him would eventually fade, but instead, their connection only grew stronger. For the next 7 years, Ashley and Jack maintained a long-distance relationship. They texted each other throughout the day and spoke on video calls late into the night. Occasionally, they quarreled, sometimes ceasing communication for short periods, but they always found their way back to each other. Jack frequently sent Ashley gifts: clothes, teddy bears, jewelry, a stylish purse, and even money on occasion. His name and face became a constant presence in the Wadsworth household. Due to the 8-hour time difference, Ashley would wake up before dawn to talk to Jack, while he would stay up late at night, waiting for her calls. Over time, they both began to share a mutual dream: to one day meet in person. However, for now, they remained images on a screen, voices transmitted across the miles, longing for the day they could finally embrace. When Ashley turned 15, she broached the subject with her mother. She wanted to travel to England to meet Jack. Christy was horrified by the idea. She could not fathom allowing her teenage daughter to fly across the world to visit a boy she had never met in real life. The answer was a firm and resounding no. Ashley was heartbroken but remained determined. She reassured Jack that no matter what, she would visit him when she turned 18 and could make her own decisions. As they grew older, tensions in their relationship escalated. The most frequent cause of their arguments was Jack's increasing jealousy. He became possessive, fearing that Ashley might develop feelings for someone closer to home. Whenever she spent time with her male classmates, Jack grew insecure, convinced that she would eventually lose interest in him. Ashley constantly reassured him of her love, but his suspicions never truly faded. At times, their arguments reached a breaking point. When Jack's jealousy became overwhelming, Ashley would block him from contacting her, hoping to gain some peace. But Jack was relentless. He would create new social media accounts just to reach her. If that failed, he would message her friends or even her sister, knowing they would pass along his messages. Some of Ashley's friends found Jack's behavior disturbing, labeling him as obsessive. But Ashley always defended him, insisting that his actions were simply a reflection of his deep feelings for her. Ironically, despite his possessiveness, sometimes the reason for their quarrels was Jack dating other girls. They would stop communicating during such periods, but their separations never lasted long. No matter how many times they argued, they always found their way back to each other. According to her mother, Ashley often compared any other boys she dated to Jack, as if no one else could measure up to the connection they shared. In addition to his obsession with social media, Jack had another passion: tattoos. He was particularly fascinated by using tattoos as a way to express deep emotions and commitment. In October 2018, when he was just shy of 20 and Ashley was 16, he proudly revealed a new tattoo to her during a video call. He had permanently inked her name onto his arm, a grand gesture of devotion that he hoped would symbolize their unbreakable bond. Jack often referred to Ashley as his future wife, and this tattoo was meant to prove how serious he was about her. However, Ashley's mother, Christy Jandrin, was deeply unsettled by this display. She found the act to be extreme and even obsessive. She strictly forbade Ashley from ever getting a tattoo with Jack's name, but Ashley reassured her mother that she had never considered doing so. Still, the relationship with Jack was becoming increasingly unstable. His controlling tendencies were beginning to manifest in more obvious ways, even from a distance. Ashley, young and deeply infatuated, did not fully grasp the significance of these warning signs. Rather than feeling alarmed, Ashley mistook this reckless act for a dramatic declaration of love. She interpreted it as an extreme, albeit passionate, expression of his feelings for her. Over time, she began to hide certain aspects of Jack's behavior from her loved ones, shielding them from the darker side of their relationship. By 2020, Ashley had turned 18, and her perception of Jack began to shift slightly. She started receiving unexpected phone calls from women who had also been involved with Jack. These women recounted troubling stories about their experiences with him. One woman, in a frantic voice, told Ashley that Jack had prevented her from leaving his house and begged Ashley to intervene, hoping she could calm him down. This revelation was deeply unsettling, but Ashley was still under Jack's influence. Although Jack occasionally dated other women, he never seemed to make an effort to hide it. Or at least Ashley thought so. She did not yet realize that Jack was an expert manipulator, skilled at making her believe she was the only one who truly mattered to him. Despite the red flags, she struggled to break free from his grip. She attempted to end things on multiple occasions, but each time, Jack would pull her back in with heartfelt apologies and grand declarations of love, insisting she was the only girl he had ever truly cared about. As soon as Ashley was legally allowed to work, she took on part-time jobs to gain financial independence. She worked at McDonald's, Burger King, and several other companies, saving every penny she earned. Her first major purchase was an iPad, allowing her to communicate with Jack without needing to use the family laptop. Even as she grew older and gained more life experience, her dream of meeting Jack in person never wavered. Now that she was an adult, her parents could no longer forbid her from visiting him. With her own money and newfound independence, Ashley took the next step toward fulfilling her long-held dream. She applied for and obtained a 6-month tourist visa, then used her savings to buy a plane ticket to London. On November 12, 2021, 19-year-old Ashley bid an emotional farewell to her family as her father drove her to the airport. Her parents were filled with worry, but knew they had no power to stop her anymore. They could only hope that this trip would give her the clarity she needed. "I thought the worst thing that could happen was she'd go, they'd realize it wouldn't work out, and then she'd come home," her mother, Christy, later admitted. As Ashley sat on the plane, waiting for takeoff, she sent a message to her family on Snapchat. "I'm in plane." After 7 years of virtual communication and 10 hours in the air, Ashley and Jack finally stood face to face for the first time. It was an exhilarating moment for both of them. Ashley's friends and family closely followed her updates on social media, watching as she posted pictures of herself and Jack together. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Ashley moved into Jack's house in northwest Chelmsford, where he had been living since 2020. To everyone on the outside, their story seemed like a modern-day fairy tale, an online romance that had finally come to life. No one could have predicted the dark turn it would soon take. But in those early days, nothing appeared amiss. Ashley continued to post pictures of their outings together, capturing what seemed to be the picture-perfect couple. They explored new places, posed for selfies, and showcased a relationship that looked blissfully happy. In many ways, Jack was exactly as Ashley had imagined him to be after years of online interactions. He was kind and sentimental at times, but he also had moments of anger and irritability. He didn't attempt to mask his flaws, nor did he try to present himself as the perfect boyfriend. They spent every waking moment together, in part because Jack was unemployed. He lived entirely off the money his mother provided him, which allowed him to avoid the responsibilities of adulthood. Ashley, on the other hand, was unable to work due to her tourist visa status. This meant that she was financially dependent on Jack, something she had never experienced before. It wasn't long before she started noticing things about Jack that unsettled her. Unlike Ashley, who had a wide circle of friends and family back home, Jack seemed to have no real social connections. He rarely spoke about friends, and he had no job to keep him occupied. His life revolved around social media and gaming, and nothing else seemed to hold his interest. The first signs of his controlling behavior soon began to surface. Jack disliked Ashley speaking to anyone outside of him. He became irritated when she interacted with a neighbor, subtly discouraging her from making any connections. This situation was entirely foreign to Ashley. She had always been a social, outgoing person, surrounded by friends and actively engaged in her community. She was not the type to sit at home, isolated from the world. Before leaving Canada, a friend from her church had connected her with a group of American missionaries who were around her age and planned to be in Chelmsford at the same time she was there. Ashley had looked forward to meeting them, seeing it as an opportunity to maintain a connection to her faith and make new friends in an unfamiliar place. However, when she shared her plans with Jack, his reaction was immediate and harsh. He flatly refused to let her meet the missionaries and prohibited her from attending Sunday services. His possessiveness was becoming more apparent. Yet Ashley, caught in the web of their relationship, hesitated to fully acknowledge the danger signs. Despite her growing discomfort, she complied with his demands, choosing to avoid conflict. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't right. She began to feel stifled, trapped in a place where she had no independence. As weeks passed, her boredom grew. She and Jack spent nearly all their time at home, and the isolation was suffocating. Determined not to lose her faith and yearning for any form of social interaction, she secretly contacted the missionaries through text messages. She knew Jack would disapprove, so she took extra precautions. She deleted their WhatsApp conversations, fearing what might happen if Jack saw them. She had learned by now that Jack constantly checked her phone, going through her messages and monitoring her activity. His paranoia and possessiveness deepened daily, and his mood swings became more severe. 6 weeks after Ashley arrived in England, the situation took a terrifying turn. Their relationship took a troubling turn when Jack displayed aggressive behavior for the first time. That day, in a moment of delusional rage, he texted his mother, confessing what he had done. He had discovered that Ashley had blocked 2 British phone numbers years ago, and he irrationally assumed they belonged to other men. "That's no reason to lay a hand on her," his mother replied, but her words held no power over Jack. Ashley, thousands of miles from home, found herself trapped in an increasingly volatile and dangerous situation. She was in a foreign country, alone with a man who was unraveling before her eyes, showing clear signs of psychological instability. To outsiders, she still projected an image of happiness. Behind every smiling photograph of the seemingly happy couple was a young woman concealing pain and fear. The day after Jack hit her, Ashley took a drastic step. She changed her Facebook profile picture to a photo of Jack hugging her, captioning it "My favorite" with a red heart. It was a public statement that all was well, a mask she wore to convince others, and maybe even herself, that everything was under control. But privately, she created a secret album on her phone, carefully documenting her bruises. Ashley confided in her sister, Haley, finally admitting that Jack was not the man she had imagined. Yet even as she shared her pain, she warned Haley not to tell their mother. If she did, Ashley threatened to cut off communication altogether. Jack frequently took prescribed medication to stabilize his emotions, but he had a pattern of seeking attention through concerning behavior. When experiencing intense emotions or seeking attention, he would sometimes act in ways that elicited concern from those around him, though without serious consequences. Over time, Ashley found herself caught in this difficult and unhealthy cycle. By the end of December 2021, the situation escalated. In an attempt to manipulate Ashley, he took an excessive amount of medication, leading to a call for medical assistance. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital where he received medical attention. Ashley told no one. Not her mother, not her friends. The only person who knew was Haley, who pleaded with her sister to come home. The situation deteriorated rapidly. In January 2022, Jack's behavior became more aggressive. During an intense argument, he lost control and broke a beer mug, causing a dangerous situation. Ashley was visibly shaken and immediately reached out to her sister, Haley, through FaceTime, seeking comfort and support. Meanwhile, Jack, still overwhelmed by emotions, continued to express his frustration. Haley was horrified. She begged Ashley to leave, to escape while she still could. But Ashley remained. Like many abusers, Jack was a master of deception. After each violent outburst, he would shift back to his charming self, showering Ashley with affection, making promises of change. For a brief period, he played the role of the devoted boyfriend, convincing Ashley that he regretted his actions. It was an illusion, a dangerous performance that lulled her into a false sense of security. But it never lasted. By late January 2022, Jack's paranoia and control spiraled further. He discovered old messages from a young Canadian man on Ashley's phone, messages that predated their time together. Enraged, he demanded her social media passwords. Terrified and desperate to avoid another violent episode, Ashley complied, handing over complete access to her accounts. But submission never satisfied Jack. It only fueled his obsession. A few days later, tensions between Jack and Ashley escalated once again. During a FaceTime call with Haley, an argument unfolded, and Ashley found herself visibly upset. Haley, deeply concerned for her sister's well-being, pleaded with her to return home before things got worse. For a brief moment, Ashley considered it. But, as before, she hesitated, seemingly influenced by Jack's reassurances and promises that things would improve. Her family feared that he was using emotional manipulation to convince her to stay, creating a cycle of distress and reconciliation. On January 30, 2022, Jack sent a concerning message to his sister. "I'm obsessed with Ashley's past." His fixation was becoming more intense, marking a turning point in their relationship. On the morning of February 1, tensions escalated once again. Shortly before 8 a.m., a concerned neighbor overheard a disturbance coming from the residence. Moments later, Ashley appeared at their doorstep, visibly shaken. She expressed deep distress over an intense argument that had taken place and confided in the neighbor about her growing fear regarding the situation. Despite her emotional state, she hesitated to involve authorities, worried about the potential consequences for both of them. Torn between concern and uncertainty, she struggled with the next steps to take. The neighbor, wanting to diffuse the tension, decided to speak to Jack directly. As he had done so many times before, Jack skillfully played the part of the remorseful partner. He apologized profusely, claiming that everything would be fine, that it was just a misunderstanding. He masked his true nature with practiced ease, convincing the neighbor that the situation was under control. Satisfied, the neighbor left, and to the dismay of fate, Ashley made the fateful decision to return to Jack. Tragically, once she stepped inside and the door slammed shut. Roughly an hour later, another neighbor arrived with a package that had been mistakenly delivered to her instead of Jack. As Jack stood at the door, momentarily distracted, Ashley seized the opportunity. She grabbed his phone and, with shaking hands, dialed her family. When her mother, Christy, answered the call, she immediately noticed the unease in Ashley's voice. Ashley expressed a strong desire to return home, and in that moment, Christy realized the seriousness of the challenges her daughter was facing, far greater than she had previously understood. The family wasted no time. They immediately booked Ashley a plane ticket for February 3rd, just 2 days away. Christy, with fierce determination, warned Jack over the phone. She made it clear that if he harmed Ashley again, she would report him to the authorities without hesitation. But Ashley's safety was still precariously in Jack's hands. It was 3 a.m. in Vernon and 11 a.m. in Chelmsford. As soon as Ashley ended the call, Jack's behavior drastically changed. His earlier remorse disappeared, giving way to another outburst. Shortly afterward, he sent a concerning message to his mother, admitting that they had a serious altercation. A few minutes later, he followed up with more details, indicating that Ashley was injured. At that moment, she was in distress, but there was no immediate help available. From 11:22 a.m. to 12:38 p.m., she managed to send messages using Jack's phone, desperately seeking help. She wrote to her family and friends in Vernon, where it was still the middle of the night, and even reached out to her church acquaintances in Chelmsford. "It's Ashley," she typed. "I need your help. It's an emergency, please." The messages were a lifeline, but time was not on her side. Hours later, more messages were sent from Jack's phone, reassuring her contacts that everything was fine. But they were lies. Ashley was no longer the one sending them. Jack was. Tragically, the people Ashley had reached out to did not see the messages right away. Meanwhile, inside the house, Jack's rage reached its irreversible breaking point. Shortly before 1 p.m., Ashley's life was tragically cut short. The situation escalated to an irreversible point, leading to a devastating outcome. Later that day, in a disturbing move, Jack updated his Facebook profile picture, as if trying to create a false narrative of their relationship. He chose an old photo of himself and Ashley, taken months earlier at Gatwick Airport. He captioned it with a single word: forever. Ashley's absence did not go unnoticed. Her church friends, Jamie Ashworth and Taylor Borden, grew concerned when they couldn't reach her. Their worry escalated when they arrived at the Tennyson Road property and received no answer. Sensing that something was terribly wrong, they contacted the police. Inside the house, next to Ashley's lifeless body, Jack sat in the bedroom, recording a final, eerie video message for her sister Haley. His voice was calm, almost detached. "I'm so sorry, Haley, for taking your sister," he said, his expression void of true remorse. He claimed he loved Ashley too much to let her go. But the video was never sent. Moments after recording the video, Jack caused minor injuries to himself. Investigators later theorized that he did this in a calculated attempt to claim self-defense, fabricating a scene where he appeared to be the victim. But it was too late. The truth was already painted in blood. By 4 p.m., the police arrived at the house, knocking on the door and calling for Jack Seal to come out. Through the window, they could see him inside. He refused to open the door. Instead, he was on a video call with his sister, confessing to the crime in real time. The police, sensing the urgency of the situation, forced their way inside and arrested him. To their surprise, he remained eerily calm, showing no signs of panic or regret. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Canada, Ashley's family awoke to an avalanche of missed messages. They tried calling Ashley, but the phone remained silent. Then, the unthinkable news arrived. Their daughter, their sister, the vibrant young woman full of dreams, was gone. For Kenneth Wadsworth, Ashley's father, the moment was one of soul-crushing devastation. The grief was indescribable. "My heart breaks," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Kenneth and his wife made the difficult journey to the UK, forced to handle the grim paperwork and bring their daughter's body home. The loss reverberated not just within Ashley's family, but across Chelmsford as well. Even those who had never met her felt the weight of her tragic end. In the days following his arrest, Jack Seal attempted to explain his actions, claiming he had gone psychotic. Despite his claims of psychological distress, a thorough psychiatric examination determined that Jack Seal was fully aware of his actions at the time of the crime. He was declared fit to stand trial. His history of controlling behavior, harassment, and violence painted the picture of a man who had long been a danger to women. In 2014, years before he met Ashley, 15-year-old Jack Seal began an online relationship. At first, she believed he was just another boy trying to get her attention, but she soon discovered his dark side. Without her permission, he took and shared photographs of her. When she broke up with him, Jack retaliated by posting those images. Terrified, the girl sought a restraining order against him, hoping to put distance between herself and her obsessive ex-boyfriend. However, just a month later, Jack violated that order without hesitation. Jack's violent tendencies were not limited to his romantic relationships. That same year, he got into a heated argument with his own mother over his Xbox. In a fit of rage, he shoved her to the ground and tore the door off its hinges. Even after facing legal consequences, Jack never truly changed. When the restraining order against him expired in 2017, instead of moving on, he sought out his former victim again. Though she ignored his attempts to contact her, Jack refused to be ignored. By January 2018, his behavior became increasingly concerning as he continued to send persistent messages. One of these messages implied that he was unwilling to accept the end of their communication and suggested that he intended to reconnect regardless of the circumstances. At this time, he had already been in contact with Ashley for 3 years, yet he remained overly focused on a past acquaintance, highlighting his ongoing difficulty in moving on. Even Jack's mother eventually reached her breaking point. In July 2018, she requested a restraining order against her own son after yet another violent outburst. That time, Jack damaged a door, smashed her car, and shattered the windows of her home in a terrifying display of uncontrolled aggression. The court intervened, sentencing him to 8 weeks in a juvenile correctional facility. However, his brief incarceration did little to deter him. By September 2018, he once again violated the restraining order, proving that no legal boundaries could contain his obsession and rage. The following month, he escalated his criminal behavior further, pleading guilty to attempting to break into a nursing home. For this crime, the court sentenced him to 21 days in prison, but confinement only seemed to fuel his desire to exert control over others. As time passed, Jack immersed himself further into the online world, using social media to search for his next victim. In March 2020, he met a woman on Facebook. Their relationship escalated quickly, and they soon moved in together. It didn't take long for the woman to realize that Jack was dangerous. His jealousy was suffocating, his mood unpredictable. When she finally told him she wanted to leave, his response was terrifying. Jack grabbed her by the throat and locked her inside their home, determined to keep her from escaping. However, she managed to break free, climbing through a window and running for her life. This was not an isolated incident. Another woman would later come forward with a similar story. In total, Jack Seal had committed 12 crimes, nearly all of them linked to domestic violence. His pattern of abuse spanned years, leaving a trail of traumatized victims in his wake. Ashley's parents were horrified when they learned about Jack's past. They couldn't believe that such a dangerous individual had been allowed to roam free, unchecked. The trial of Jack Seal began in September 2022. He pleaded guilty to the brutal murder of Ashley Wadsworth. The prosecution built a strong case, backed by overwhelming evidence and witness testimony. Neighbors and friends recounted the disturbing behaviors they had witnessed in Jack, detailing his possessiveness, mood swings. The court also heard chilling voice notes that Ashley had sent to her friends, capturing Jack's threats in his own words. The judge overseeing the case did not mince words. He condemned Jack's actions as brutal and cowardly, describing Ashley's murder as a premeditated act of pure malice. He noted that Jack Seal had 8 prior convictions for 12 separate crimes. This pattern of behavior, the judge stated, showed a clear escalation in Jack's controlling and violent tendencies toward women. On October 10, 2022, the court delivered its final judgment. Jack Seal was sentenced to life in prison. However, under the law, he will have the right to apply for parole after serving 23 years.